All right, let's take a look at geometry nodes. How exciting. Now, before we jump into creating things with geometry nodes, we're going to take a look at the geometry node modifier and the spreadsheet, as those work with geometry nodes. So here you can see we have a geometry nodes layout. Let's go ahead and select that, and it will change this window or add a window here and change it to the spreadsheet, as you can see right here. It will change this window to the geometry node editor, which is where we're going to be creating the geometry nodes. And then over here, of course, we have our 3D viewport, our properties, and our outliner. Let's hit the T key in the 3D viewport to close that tool shelf. You can see under add modifier, we have geometry nodes right here. Or if we click on new right here, it will create a new geometry node tree and add that modifier automatically. So let's just go ahead and click on new right there. And you can see right here, it adds two different nodes, but it also adds this modifier here. So once again, if I go ahead and delete this, you can see here with the cube selected, I could just go to add modifier and select geometry nodes right here and click new, and that would be the same exact thing. Now you can see that the geometry nodes is based off of a modifier, which is quite interesting because with shader nodes and compositing nodes, we don't have it based off a modifier, but here we do. As you can see, we have this geometry nodes modifier, which has output attributes right here and internal dependencies right here. And we're also going to have some input attributes here as well. Now we're going to go over this as we start to build our node tree right here, and we'll take a look at the different options of the modifier. But just know that for geometry nodes to work, you need to have this geometry nodes modifier. All right, next, let's take a look at this spreadsheet right here. So the spreadsheet right here is basically a text representation of the position of our different points in our 3D space. And again, we'll take a look more at this as we build our geometry nodes, but let's take a quick overview, that way it's not overwhelming. You can see right here, once again, it is set to spreadsheet. And here on the left, we have different spreadsheets that we could have for different values. You can see right here, we have vertices, edges, faces, face corner. We also have it for the curves, and we could have control point and spline. We have it for point clouds. So here, if you're doing, for example, 3D scans, which create point clouds, you can use the position of the point clouds. And we have volume grids right here. So this will basically be volumetric data such as smoke or fire or things of that nature. And then we have instances right here. Now, for now, to not be overwhelmed, let's just take a look at this top one right here, the mesh, which contains the vertices, edges, face, and face corner, because that's what we're going to work with first. And then as we start to work with these right here, we'll take a look at them as we go. So here you can see that with the mesh, we have the vertices. The vertices, we can see it tells us how many vertices there are, which is 8 right here. And then you could see right here on the left side of this panel, we have the indexes. Now you can see that the index goes from 0 to 7 right here. Now the index basically represents this particular point and its position in space. So for example, to demonstrate this, let me go ahead and get my annotate tool here. You don't have to do this, by the way. I'm going to hit the N key, go to tool right here, and make sure that the placement is drawing on the surface. And you can see here that we have 3 different columns for the position. This right here is the X, this right here is the Y position, and this right here is the Z position. So let's take the index of 0. So the index of 0 contains these 3 positions of X, Y, and Z, and this is going to be the position of this particular vertex. So here, if we take the position of +1 on the X, which is this way, so +1 on the X would be over here. So +1 right here. +1 on the Y, so then we go up on the Y 1 more. We're going up 1. And then +Y on the Z. So here, if I go to side view, +1 on the Z this way. So there we go. We have 1, 1, and 1 going up, which would be this point right here. So as you can see, this index right here of 0 contains the position of X of 1, y of 1, and z of 1, which represents this point right here. So let me go ahead and actually just draw that. So we have 1, 1, 1, which is this point right here. Then on index of 1 right here, we have 1, 1, negative 1. So again, if we take a look at this, it would be 1, 1, and then negative 1 on the z-axis, so negative 1 this way, so it would be this point right here. And then we have 1, negative 1, 1, which would be 1, negative 1, and then 1, which would be going up this way. We have 1, negative 1, negative 1, so again, 1, negative 1, negative 1, which would be here. As you can see, it's starting to lay out the structure of all these vertices and the position, again, the position of these different vertices. Let me quickly lay out the other ones. So we have negative 1, 1, 1. So negative 1, 1, 1 would be here. Let me redraw that right there. We have negative 1, 1, negative 1. So negative 1, 1, negative 1, which is right here. Then we have negative 1, negative 1, 1. So negative 1, negative 1, and 1, which is right here. And negative 1, negative 1, negative 1, which is right here. So now if I hide the cube by hitting the H key, you can see that we have basically the coordinate system or the position of all these different vertices in the 3D space. So we have these different points right here which represent the vertices of this cube. And this is a lot how geometry nodes works. It works based off of the position of the different data of your object, such as the vertices, the edges, and the faces. So here now, as you can see, we have the position of each of these vertices. Let me go ahead and hit Alt-H. The next option we have is the edges right here. Now, as you can see, the edges has no data currently. The one after that is the faces. And as you can see, the faces will basically give us an index for each of the faces based on the normal of the face. Now again, the normal of the face is the direction, the perpendicular direction of the face. So if I go to edit mode and go up here to the drop down, I could enable the face normals here and increase the size. You can see that these right here, these lines are the normals of the faces. So here, this would be the normal of this face. This would be the normal of that face, etc. Again, the normal of the face is the perpendicular direction of that face. So here in the face data right here, it's giving us an index for each of the faces depending on its normal direction. So we can see on the index of 0, we have the normal of 0 for the x, 0 for the y, and 1 for the z. Excuse me. 1 for the z. So you can see that here, this face of the index of 0 is this one right here. So this is the face of index of 0 because that is the normal of that index. Then on index number 1, we have 0 on the x, negative 1 on the y, and 0 on the z. So that would be this face right here. So this face normal right here. Because again, this normal on this face is pointing in the direction of negative 1, as you can see right there. Now, if I select this face right here, for example, let me go to face select mode, that would help, and I rotate it, you can see that the normal starts to change. So now the normal of column number 1 is 0.007 on the x, negative 0.828 on the y, and 0.561 on the z. So again, it's able to give us an index based on the normal, or basically the perpendicular direction of that face. Let's go ahead and map out the other ones. You can see that 2 is negative 1 on the x, which would be this one right here. We got number 3, which is negative 1 on the z, which is this one right here. We got 4, which is 1 on the x, which would be this one here. And number 5, which is 1 on the y, which would be this right here. And this is really cool because in geometry nodes, let's say you want to extrude just this face right here, for example. Well, this face right here has the index of, this one would be +1 on the X. So that would be this one right here, number 4. So this face has the index number of 4. Well, in geometry nodes, you could say, take the face index 4 and extrude just that index or just that face. So now we're able to map every face to a different index and then use those indexes to either extrude them, scale them, etc. if we want to extrude, scale, or manipulate just a particular face, which is pretty cool. Now you could also see that here we have shade smooth, and this tells us whether a face is smooth shaded or not. So if I take this one, right click and select shade smooth, you can see that now it has a little check mark saying that it is shaded smooth, or if I go back to shade flat, that it's not. If I select these two faces, right click shade smooth, you can see that now 4 and 1 of the indexes is checked for shade smooth. And of course I could select everything shade smooth or select everything shade flat, and it will tell you which ones are shaded flat or not. We do have this other option up here, by the way, which is show only the selected. So here we could just, whichever face we select, it will only show that index, which is pretty cool. So this way we could quickly know which index it is for the faces that we want to manipulate or the faces that are selected. Let's go ahead and uncheck this for now. Then lastly, we have face corner. As you can see, for face corner, we have 24, and that's because this is the corner of each face. And we have 6 faces on our cube and 4 corners per face, so 4 times 6 is 24. You could also see that here the data that is given is the UV map. So we only have 2 coordinates because again, it's the U coordinate and the V coordinate. So for this, once again, it's the face corner. So it would be, for example, for this face right here, it would be this corner, this corner, this corner, and this corner. And for each other face, it would be the same. So this corner, this corner, this corner, this corner. So 6 faces times 4, we have 24 face corners. And each index here contains the U and V coordinate of each face. Very, very cool. Now, one thing you'll notice is that if you add different things, there might be additional options added to the top of our spreadsheet. For example, if we go to the object data here, and let me go back to select mode, we could create a vertex group right here and select a face. If we click assign on that group right there, you can see that if I go to the vertices here, we now have this new column right here called group. And you can see that vertex index of 0 and 1 has a value of 1 assigned to it because we assigned a value of 1. And the index of 4 and 5 also has a value of 1 assigned to it, because again, that's all of these points right here. If I put this weight down and click assign again, you can see that now the group weight for all these vertices is changed to whatever we assign it to. Same thing is true for materials. For example, if we go to material and we click on the plus icon to add a new material, new right there, and let's go ahead and hit tab to go into edit mode, and with this face selected, let's assign it to material 001. You can see if we go to the face information right here, we now have a material index. So again, the index goes from 0 to 1. So all of these zeros right here are going to be this first material. All of these faces are assigned this first material, which is an index of 0. And this last face right here, which has an index of 5, is assigned this material right here, which is the index of 1. If we add a new material, you can see we could name this. Well, actually, we don't have to name it. But this material, we could go into edit mode, select this face, select this third material, and click assign. And you can see that now this face right here has a material index of 2. Again, the indexes go from 0 and up from there. So this material is an index of 0. This material is an index of 1. This material is an index of 2. And you can see that right here. All of these faces have the first material. This one has the third material, and this one has the second material. So keep in mind with indexes, it starts at 0. So whatever number you think it is. For example, if you think it's material number 3, it'll be index number 2. So just subtract one number from that because it takes into account the value of 0 as an index. So obviously, for example, here we have 6 faces, but we only have up to 5, number 5 as indexes because 0 also counts as an index. So as you can see, as you add other things such as materials and vertex groups and such, you will get other columns which basically display different values and indexes based on whatever you add to your geometry, which is pretty awesome. So that is the spreadsheet and the modifier for geometry nodes. Again, we're going to take a look at more of this as we build our geometry nodes. So let's go ahead and create a new file first. File, new, general, and let's go to geometry nodes. I'll see you in the next one. Ciao for now. Au revoir.